So why don't we go down, everyone, just like, give a quick couple sentences about who you are, what you're building, and why you're doing it.
Yeah, hello. Hey, my name's Andrew. I co-founded a company called Lastmile AI. The company builds out a MCP agent framework and the platform for it. And so the cloud platform lets you host MCP servers, agents, applications, and workflows. Spent a lot of time at different tech companies, Microsoft, Airbnb, and Facebook. Pleasure to meet everyone.
Hi, everyone. My name is Raji Rajagopalan, and I'm here representing Microsoft's AI Foundry. My own remit within AI Foundry is efficiency of AI across cloud and edge. So this is efficiency of all the models that are executing in our data center in Azure, but also how we think about it as we bring models to your phones, your devices, your laptops, and so on. I'm glad to hear you've been at Microsoft too. I've been at Microsoft for many years now.
Hey, I'm Diamond. I'm the Director of Engineering and AI at DataDog that runs AI experiments, agents, and a variety of other things. I've been in AI for 15 plus years. I guess we would have called it machine learning in the beginning. Ran my own startup, been at Facebook, been at Amazon, been at Microsoft. I try to just go everywhere and see what they're doing in AI.
Hey, my name is Mahdi. I'm an AI solution architect at AMD. I'm part of the team that we help with day zero support for all the open source models that are coming out, open source software that allow you guys to build agents or run the models, and also help with some internal tools and agents that we build at AMD to help us with all the work that we need.
Cool. So why don't we get into some of the more important aspects of this talk, which is about how do you put things into production. So why don't we have everyone? We'll go down this way. No, give him the mic back. We'll just go down this way. If you were to pick one lesson that you've learned in the last year putting these things into production, what would that be?
I guess so. Maybe talk about the model side of things at AMD, since we have various kind of hardware that you can run. So you can run your models on either a local PC or data centers with AMD GPUs or CPUs. And we enable that through different either open source software that are third party or AMD software such as Lemonade that we have that you can run the models. One of the things that I learned is picking the right model. And actually helps you with building your agent. Since when you go to smaller models, that could be challenging to actually get the models to do what you want. They do tend to hallucinate a lot more when it gets smaller and not call the tools or the kind of functionality that you need. So picking the right model and actually looking at all the evaluations about it is the way to go if you're using smaller models. That's, I guess, one of the lessons that I learned.
Yeah, I guess related to that, just do eval, right? Look at your data, know how you're measuring success of your models or your agents, and make sure you actually have a process for that. Can't really decide if a smaller model is better than a bigger model without doing eval for your own task. Make sure you have your own task-specific eval. If you don't, you're probably just building demos and vibe testing.
Yeah, I would second that. I think a couple of things from my perspective. I've been working with a number of customers who have been taking their own applications and agents from exploration to production. And a couple of things that we have heard from them, number one is they really want observability tools, right? They want to be able to see what their agents are doing, to your point. They want to be able to see what the agents are doing, not just when they're testing it, but also in production. So we are building into AI Foundry, we're building a lot of that observability tools, and that is, we called it the season 2 of our own evolution in AI Foundry. And the season 1 was about helping people just explore and play around with the models in AI Foundry, but the season 2 was more around how do we now help our customers go into production, and that is building monitoring and telemetry and all the observability tools that you need to see what your agent is doing, what your app is doing. The second part of that is related to that is also trust. You want to be able to trust that the model responses are up to the standards of the organization organization, the company that is using the model. So we do a lot of that as well with red teaming agents and our own deployment safety practices. We do a lot of that. I think the last bit there is, again, I think you just need to kind of not be, I think you made that point as well. It is not, what we are seeing with our customers is not just a single model for an application, it's multiple models, networks of models that are actually working together to get your jobs to be done. And in order to do that, you want the ability to eval multiple models and pick and choose. And so that is another one where you don't want to be locked into a particular vendor. You want to be able to have the choice of models and the choice of vendors that you can work with.
I'll take a pretty different response for this one. It's pretty hard. I think everyone here has gone through it. It is ridiculously hard. And I think a lot of people are probably trying to deploy agents or AI systems in production or finding it's incredibly difficult. So first and foremost, not alone. Been in the AI space for about a decade. It is really damn hard with models that are not deterministic, and you need the real ML expertise in order to align its behavior towards what you want it to be. And so the first part is super hard. The second part that comes to mind is the people that we found and work with that succeeded set themselves up for success rather than failure. I think everyone here has worked with enterprises. The enterprise that comes in and says, I have a lot of Word documents, PDFs, I want to funnel it through an LLM and have it respond instantly, that is an extremely difficult problem. OCR development, everything there is extremely difficult to get right. Versus the company that comes in and says, oh, we just need a internal ChatGPT-like system that does simple retrieval and gets you some responses. The likelihood of success on that is a lot higher than mission-critical systems that are in an LLM path or an agent path. And so use case selection is really important. And then building in some type of durability. Like, expect it's not going to be 100% perfect. It really won't. And so build upfront durability. Like, have a way that your system can recognize whether it failed, it could regenerate it, it might call multiple LLMs and do some type of quorum or aggregate the results. But you have to really design your system understanding that these systems aren't going to give you the perfect answer. And once you unlock that, you're going to see your success rate really skyrocket. If you assume that just an agent call with an LLM will succeed, will most likely be really disappointing, because the real world is tough, and the models, it cannot do it perfectly, not right now. And so, yeah, build it into your system.
So we heard a little bit about evals, about difficulty of putting these things into production, and about the use cases. So I think this leads really, really well into my next question, which is going to be about what are the use cases that you see work well in production? Well, you've given us a couple examples, Andrew, but I mean, you can start if you have more to say about that as well.
Yeah, I'm going to take it before everyone else gets to answer it. Productivity, that one is a no-brainer. You see Cursor, you see coding assistants, you see GitHub Copilot, you see Office products, you see Google's app suites of product. Everybody's adding AI to these systems, because whatever took you 4 hours would take you 1 hour. Whatever took you 8 hours or a week will take you 10x less. And so that's the no-brainer one that everyone is chasing after, which is you can save yourself 10x time if you leverage these AI systems. And so when you see the next AI startup that's like a Lovable, a Replit, something that kind of builds either tools, productivity tools, those are the ones that are doing really well, because immediately value, it's not in the critical path, but it adds so much value and it's so worth it. So that's, yeah, sorry everyone, took the easy one.
No, it's okay. I will add to that. Maybe I'll give you a couple of different examples. One of them is how we, inside Microsoft, we are, starting to use AI tools in our own workflows, and how we are thinking about productivity and, acceleration of velocity for our engineers and our product managers. I run a team of product managers in Microsoft, and one of the things that we're thinking about, how is product management as a discipline evolving? And my peers on the engineering side are thinking about how is is development as a discipline evolving as well, and how AI is now becoming a core part of everything that we do. And it's not just, summarizing your documents or asking Copilot to write your email for you. I do that all the time. But it's more than that. How can we automate and agentify some of the workflows? Like, how are we thinking about customer feedback? How do we respond to customers? How do we triage customer feedback? And how do we look at change management across multiple Azure DevOps, pipelines and so on? So those are things that we are doing inside Microsoft, a very large enterprise in itself. We also work, because now, now I'm putting my AI Foundry hat on. We work with a number of customers globally, and a couple of examples come to mind. One is KPMG. We did a public study about that and published the case study there. They have been using our platform to build agents to do auditing, right? Audit cases. And then some large banks in Germany, we've been working with them on customer relations type of use cases. Customer relations is a very popular use case. We work with some airlines and how they are talking to their customers as well. That is a very favorite one. It's a very chat-body kind of an application.
I prefer to talk to a human for customer service. Anyway.
Yeah, I think for us it's very much a DevOps and SRE type thing. No one really likes waking up at 2 in the morning and dealing with issues. So we're trying to automate as much of that as possible. And those we've seen be relatively successful for the kind of things that you might give your SD1, SD2 to handle. We're not yet at the stage of I can trust it for like very complex use cases. Who knows, maybe this is what they were using for US East 1 as some version of this. It didn't really work yesterday. But that wasn't us, I promise. That's all within AWS. This isn't recorded, right? Is it? I don't know. But besides DevOps, I would say that we do work with a number of customers as well who are building their own agent solutions. And a lot of it is all about the coding use cases and the things that Harrison Chase, Mr. Billion-Dollar Man as of today, calls like ambient agents, the things that run in the background. You have a trigger that comes through because there's a GitHub action that says, this PR was just pushed in this repo. What do? Well, normally someone might go look at it, see if it matches all the expectations, see if it does the thing that you want. Instead, an agent can go do that. A coding agent can make some suggestions, can look at the rest of your code base, can even give feedback before a human does. And that's pretty nice. These are all the things that I expect to run in the background. And more of these ambient agent use cases are the kind of things that I am seeing pop up. Small tasks that are not too complex, but can be done without a human having to spend much time.
Yeah, I think we all probably agree now. It's all productivity is definitely number one. I work at AMD, same as Microsoft or other companies here. We push towards using AI agents for now coding or analysis of different data or whatnot. But I guess we all heard about that, and I think this is just the beginning. So we see right now a lot of people ask me, is like, so can you give me one practical example of AI agents? And I think we all agree coding is there, but this is just the beginning to a lot of things that we never thought about. I've seen a trend of now things are changing. As of now, a lot of the designs around the UI or the stuff that we use is based on human going to click stuff or type or whatever. But it's changing to more of how do we pass that to different AI models or AI agents. So this is the beginning, and I think there's more to come. And I'm interested to see how, multi-agent systems that are being developed right now, and there's a lot of discussions about how do we actually make them all work together, is going to change things. But as of right now, definitely productivity, coding, and Copilot. Those are the things I've seen we use a lot.
I like that you ended your talk or your little spiel there on multi-agent systems, because I think the other thing,
I was on purpose to let you.
Read my mind, I think the next topic that we can kind of go into here is how do these multi-agent systems work? What's going to be the base protocol? There's there's A to A, there's MCP. I'm sure there's other ones as well, but these are the two popular ones. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on these? Which one do you think is more likely to be helpful? Do you think either of these is going to be the one that we end up adopting as a standard? We'll start with you and we'll move down.
Sure. I think In terms of how the agent's going to work together, we had a little talk before this, and we agreed that it ultimately is all about adoption and which one is going to be accepted by the community and everybody. There's a lot around it too, so we got to go deeper. So right now, MCP, I think, we all agree that's the most popular way, and you can also, wrap your entire agent as an MCP server to, give it to another agent to use. I personally do like the A2A protocol, where how the agents are exposing themselves to the agent card, and maybe easier to design a multi-agent system using A2A. But there's a lot around it, so you got to think ahead in terms of scenarios. That I was reading, there was a startup that actually had a $40,000 bill because there was 2 agents talking to each other in a loop for 11 days and racking up the bill without them even noticing that it happened. So whatever the protocol comes has to also go a bit beyond that, that we're going to accept that here there's a protocol and these are the guardrails that we got to use to prevent scenarios like that.
Yeah, I think MCP, A2A, none of it kind of matters. Not in a philosophical sense, but you'll pick up whichever one works best, which right now is MCP, whichever one everyone's picking up. Like you're saying, I think the most important thing is that the cloud infra or like the managed infra or wherever you're running these agents is actually probably more important than the protocol you use. And that's a little bit of like also how do you do DevOps? How do you log information on what they're doing? How do you put those guardrails in place? But yes, if I had to bet today, I'd say MCP. I haven't run into anyone using A2A yet. I know you are, but very few people I know using A2A at the moment. And I think MCP mostly covers all the use cases there, except for maybe the agent card.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to say anything very different here, but when MCP was becoming such a huge furor in the industry, we were sort of, inside Microsoft, we were starting to think about should we support this in AI Foundry? Should we really lean into it or not? And one of the things that has been very important for us as we were designing AI Foundry is to really be open across the different layers, right? Openness and in runtime, openness in models, openness in the protocols that we support to build your agents and applications. So we're leaning into MCP, we're leaning into A2A, so it's really, to your point, you pick up whatever is best for you and for the particular thing that you want to use. And it's very similar to the other previous platform shifts that happened where a protocol was coming, and it really depends on how the ecosystem is adopting the protocol that, is that protocol going to win or not, right? In this case, MCP, a lot of people are adopting it, and therefore the ecosystem is rich enough that if you're playing in that ecosystem, you have the network of agents that are available for you to network with. So I think in that sense, MCP has the upper hand now, but our philosophy in Microsoft has been to just be open to these protocols that are evolving and lean into what makes sense for our customers.
A2A. No, I'm just kidding. Our platform literally bets that MCP is the platform for agent communication. As soon as it came out, our company decided this protocol doesn't seem strict where it should be able to support agents. There really is no need to have a separate agent protocol, which is why we named it MCP Agent. And so we're a big fan of it. And I think to what everyone said, the protocol doesn't really matter as much as adoption. A lot of people here probably in big tech or any type of tech company debates on what's better, what open source technology was better, what protocol's better. Like literally, 8 years ago, TensorFlow versus PyTorch. All these debates happen, and it really just depends on what is the adoption and what is going to lead the front that way. And it is heavily trending towards MCP, and it keeps trending towards MCP. And I think more of the indication towards that is OpenAI. They released their OpenAI apps, super based on MCP, which means that they're also betting big on MCP. And so it feels like MCP is going to be the protocol to stay. It doesn't mean that the protocol is perfect. There's a lot of protocols out there that are really not great. You can think of like LDAP. You can think of like Bluetooth. There's a lot of protocols out there that aren't the best, but if it's widely used, it becomes the standard. And so, yeah, just bet on the one that is most agreed upon, and that's usually a good indicator of what works. I think the other one that you talked about was like agents and just like agent architectures and like how agents operate together. I think there's a pretty deep docket there, but I won't go too much into it. But it is fascinating to see, like, when you look at the architecture for a Claude Code or deep research and you start seeing architecture behaviors with sub-agents, and what are the agentic use cases that seem to be most successful. And I won't go too deep into it, but it is interesting to see how simple architectures that are quite capable tend to win long term, as opposed to really nuanced ones that are overly complicated, where there are times when you look at an agent architecture and you're like, oh, you should have probably just coded that piece instead of letting an agent, an LLM call it, because it's so hard codable. Like, you've defined it so strictly that it is literally something that should be hard coded instead of an LLM should run it. But if you really lean into it, and you can do quite powerful things like a coding assistant.
One last thing. What does the S in MCP stand for?
The S?
Yeah, the S in MCP. It stands for security.
Oh, oh God.
Kidding.
All right. Oh, well, here, look, I don't want to get too deep into this, but I just want to ask you guys, what are your feelings on React and Next.js? I mean, React definitely achieved adoption way ahead of time. So
yeah,
that's why I'm like, hey, I think there might be something that comes out after. But what I want to use some of this time to talk about something that you guys mentioned a lot. Everybody mentioned this thread of adoption, and basically how do you get these things out there? So we know there's a lot of companies that want to adopt AI. What do you think are some of the biggest barriers for people right now?
I can start first. A lot of companies for sure want to adopt AI, and the fascinating thing is most of the times when we engage with these companies, they start top down, where some leadership is really interested in AI. They set aside part of their organization to investigate further or try to launch something there with a dedicated budget for that. And typically the biggest blocker for them to adopt and go past the POC stage is it's not super clear on what's the best way to architect it in a way that it'll succeed. That's probably the biggest blocker we see, where it's either overly ambitious and the technology is not there yet, or there's also some part of like security and fear. There are definitely times we've encountered with users and customers where, questions like, is my data going to be used by this model? Even if it's an open source model, sometimes that question comes up. Other questions of like, oh, I asked it a question that was sensitive. Will that person also get a response on it? How do I prevent that? And all those things usually come up, and it really hinders progress. And I think one thing sorry, this is kind of going on a tangent. One thing that people are really surprised is when they use these models, they don't get exactly the same thing they see with ChatGPT or these other systems. And to no one's surprise here, ChatGPT is not just a model. It's like an orchestration of a ton of models. It has tons of systems set up on it, so that seamless chat experience is probably touching tons of services in the back end, context, memory management, multiple models, routing on it, guardrails, they put everything inside there. And so to expect that it's going to be, with just simple call, the same for their company, is they're disregarding that they have an army of ML experts who are building the systems. And so that's probably the biggest challenge. And I like the first question that I answered. The best way to success is to properly scope on what is an achievement that you can do for the company that is likely to succeed, and start from there.
Lower your expectations.
Yeah, it's not gonna solve everything for your company right off the bat. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll add to that. So you mentioned that the technology is not there, and I 100% agree that the technology is not there. That is what all of us here are trying to do, is build that technology so that it is actually dependable, actually accessible, right? So I think this is an important part of getting AI to be more useful for humanity. But the second part of it, which should not be also ignored, is the people and the process aspect. In order to truly transform industries, you need to not ignore the people and the process aspect. And right now, what we see around different industries is that while the desire is there, everybody, like the top-down thing that you mentioned, the reason why people have that top-down desire is there are two kinds of, again, a tangent here, there are two types of errors you can make when you're thinking about whether you want to involve in something or not. One is an error of omission, and another is an error of commission, right? An error of omission is if you don't opt into doing something, and that is an error, that thing actually becomes a winning thing, and you're not part of that game. That is an error of omission. An error of commission is if you commit to playing that game, and it's a bad game, then it's an error of commission. And in this case, everybody is afraid of making an error of omission, right? They really want to be in AI. They don't want to be left irrelevant, right? Because they see that AI is the way of the future, and they want to be in it. And a lot of the C-suite people, a lot of the leaders that we talk to have that desire for their teams to drive their businesses with AI. But the skills are not there. People they don't fully understand how to use AI. So there needs to be an effort to upskill people. And so we are doing that with our own different organizations inside Microsoft. But skilling is going to be very important on how to use AI effectively, how to build agents, how to, even how to properly vibe code and, take that vibe code and put it into production. What do you need to do in order to do that? So a lot of the people skilling aspect needs to be in place. And then also, how do you rethink your processes, right? Like what used to work for people, those processes need to be rethought and rewired for an age in which a lot of the work would be done by AI. So I would say that technology needs to mature, but people and process need to be rethought as well.
Yeah, honestly, I think the tech is actually can do a lot. Having talked to a lot of companies, though, I think the rethinking process to me is actually taking the process out. The biggest thing that holds back many companies today from using AI in interesting ways within their company is that there's an army of middle managers in most of these companies. No offense to anyone who's a middle manager, and they tend to hold things back. They want to prove everything. They want to go through and and make sure that they have measurements and OKRs and all those bullshit things that don't really matter. And they tend to be the kind of people also that take the top-down mandate to go do AI, and then they go and figure out, give us a 6-month roadmap from this PM. Give me a 1-year roadmap from this other one. Give me 3 more months to do this thing. Come to me with things that you're going to propose, and then we'll decide if we're going to do it. No, if you want to do this useful, if you're anyone who has any power within your company, go and find the people who are smart. Go and find the people who have some background in the space and are curious, and empower them. Give them a team. Tell them to come back in a few months with what they've built. Do not give that to your VPs or directors. People like, most of us up here, we're probably too senior and too old to be doing these things. Find the folks who are going to do it quickly.
I think when it comes to AI agents or AI overall, especially LLMs, the nature of them is so undeterministic that it makes it so hard to make a stable solution. I was working on a demo for a big event that we had, like a live demo, and I was actually using SG Lang, the guy who was presenting before. It took me 2 days to literally try to figure out a way that we can somehow, to an extent, reproduce the same demo over and over using a very small model, like a 1.2 billion model. And it barely worked to the point that we're like, okay, we can trust it, even us having a demo, not even on an enterprise level. But I think this is just a matter of time, right? You're asking a general model to do some specific task for you, but if you start just the way that we did before with CNNs, right? I've been in AI for 10 years now, and we've built different products for it. You start with human in the loop, you set the expectation correctly, and you build that trust slowly, then you'll get there. But you can't just suddenly say, okay, let's remove this whole process and go with AI. I don't think that's the right approach anyways. So you start slowly, you set the expectation right, and you build on top of it.
All right. I think a lot of what you guys talked about with this kind of like setting expectations right, getting the right teams in place, setting the governance in, I think these are all really important. Before I don't want to dive too much into these in the interest of time. I want to leave some time for audience questions. So I'll go through a couple of quick questions for you guys, and then we'll defer to audience questions. So why don't we get something just really quick, one sentence. What is something that you haven't had the chance to tell someone who wants to build AI into production that you haven't had the chance to say yet? What is that one thing that you would say to them? Don't do it.
You want to go?
Yeah. The thing that I love to emphasize first is I was meeting an ex-coworker while. Okay, one sentence.
Yeah.
It's a long set. Okay, lightning round. Do not be a tool for the LLM. You should use the LLM in the fact that you should have a really good idea of what you want. Do not let the LLM go and drive it for you. And often people let the LLM come up with things that sound really great, and you keep going down this path and you're with something that you didn't really want. Have a really good idea up front that's crystal clear, and then use it for that. Ooh, one breath. Try to get it all into one super long sentence, yeah.
And I'll give you one sentence, and then I'll probably have to give a lot of context to that sentence. But my advice would be don't give up, right? And I'll tell you why I'm saying that. Recently, I tried to use GitHub Copilot in agent mode to kind of rewrite my website, and I had to go through multiple iterations to get the result that I wanted, right? So I think that's sometimes you'll just have to try, because sometimes it doesn't, the first shot is not the right answer.
Look at your data.
Oh. Nice and succinct.
I would say don't expect a miracle, right? Because you got to know what you want to achieve and have proper evaluation steps for it. That can you actually get there? If you plan to do something so big that is not possible, you're not going to get there. So kind of like scope it, make it small, and then go from there. Sometimes you see with LLMs, people really think we're at AGI level and let's just give it to an AI model or AI agent and they'll do it for you. But that's not the reality right now.
All right, last question for me. It's also going to be a little controversial. What is your favorite open source LLM?
I would say Quinn 3 models. They've been phenomenal for me.
Yeah, I guess I can't really say Quinn. I'd probably say the OpenAI one, mostly because I think it's a philosophical shift. Not so much that I use that model every day, but just one that is happy to see them doing this.
Love it. I'm not going to answer it very easily because, but I will say my favorite open source runtime is Onyx runtime, which is this is part of the work that my team is doing, and we do a lot of work with your teams right at AMD on that. But yeah, I'm not going to answer the favorite LLM.
All right,
question.
That's fine.
Is Phi not open source?
Onyx
is Phi not open source? I feel like you have to say that as Microsoft.
Yeah. Where is the? Hold on.
The point of AI Foundry is it's embrace everything.
Yeah, it's okay.
Got to be neutral.
I'm also gonna go with GPT OSS.
Oh, that's the name.
Works well. Also like Diamond, I would not run it on my machine because it's so slow, because my machine is so underpowered, but it's a good shift in the dynamics of making more open for everyone. And I've heard really good things about the Quen 3, so I haven't tried it yet, though. So that might be my new favorite after this.
All right. We'll open it up for some audience questions. We've got time for a few. Yes, please shout.
Hi. A while ago, Mark Benioff said, hi, this is about agentic AI or AI agents. A while ago, Mark Benioff said he's confident he's going to be able to roll out 1 billion agents by the end of this year. So I'm just curious, Do you think SaaS companies are rushing to, change their business model from SaaS to agent-based? Do you see that happening? Because earlier you guys just said, you kind of set the expectation, but a lot of SaaS businesses are very mission critical. So I'm just curious what you have heard.
I talk to a lot of enterprise companies, and I'd say that they're not trying to change it, but they're trying to add another maybe business or an ability to say, if agents were my customer, what would that look like? Or if an agent did all the work that my service is doing, what would that look like? So my positioning and kind of direction for most of these companies anyway, and what they're doing is that they're trying to build a product that can eat their current product, but they're not certain that that's what's going to happen yet. Benioff is, he's trying to sell stuff. So he's going to say that. But I do think it's possible for many businesses. But he also loves to talk his book, like the whole agent force thing and all that.
Yeah, I don't know if it
shareholder
is
value.
more of a, are we running out of time?
No, I was just saying boosting shareholder value.
Okay. Yeah. I'll keep it short. I don't know if it is rushing to do it or not, but I do, going back to my earlier comment about fear of omission, they don't, you don't want to be left out of agents or the way of the future. So folks are dipping their toes and figuring out what parts of their business can be agentified.
Can we throw the mic to him?
Oh yeah, can you hand that mic to him?
Or can you shout?
Don't throw it. Don't throw it. Just...
Yeah, I'm just curious from your perspectives, with all the different tools and companies with these things to help make agents better, how do you navigate which ones you're choosing, which ones you're going to pilot out, which ones you're not going to for each of your workloads?
How do you pick an agent is the question. Or agent tools.
Tools.
Yeah, agent tools.
Yeah, this is unfair for me. Since I'm in a startup, I use everything. And I think that's pretty different from when I used to be at a big company. And when I used to be at Facebook or Meta, it was really different where I could only use the internal stuff. And so I use a lot of things. And I also find notable luminaries who highly recommend things as a good place to start. And I try to avoid all of the tools because there's a lot that comes from like YC that there's like, it's impossible to use all of them. And so, yeah, that's kind of my take. It's hard though. I don't think there's an easy answer to this.
Andrew's take is that you should use MCP agent.
Yeah, use MCP, use Vital though.
Yeah, I don't know. It's probably similar to, you have a plethora of apps and websites to do many things, right? And of course, in certain areas, you have a lot of network effects on certain apps and websites. And in others, it's pretty much like you can, have a lot of choice. So I think it's going to become like that too. There are going to be, some models that are going to be used by a large number of people. And then there are going to still be models that are available, that are used by others. And then it's agents are going to become like apps, right? You're going to have a rich ecosystem of agents to choose from, and some will be more popular than others. But time will tell. That's sort of like my crystal ball is it's going to be like apps, or agents are going to be like apps, and you're going to have a rich ecosystem of them.
I would suggest start looking at open source tools because we should, as a community, push
Yes.
for open source, and that's what I would say. So within open source, you have options. Pick the one that works the best for you. There's not a single solution. Like I've looked into many of them, like in terms of agentic frameworks, for example. You have, like every day I see a new one coming out. So I would personally go with the ones that have really good documentation and also like they actually maintain the code properly. That's what I would pick if it works for you. As long as they allow you to, expose your agent with the protocols that are out there, you should be good.
All right, last question.
I have a question with regard to the agent adoption. We're talking about agents in the wild and agents great. Why haven't it been adopted more widely? What do you think are some of the blockers? And from your purview, which of the agent do you think is best commercially, or most commercial friendly so far? Thank you.
Yeah, I guess from my point of view, I talk to a lot of devs and DevOps types. So the coding agents, I think, actually have really gotten into most companies, right? Like when we say agents aren't being adopted rapidly, I try to think back like a year ago or 2 years ago to like how many people I knew who were using coding agents. Basically no one. Maybe some people were using kind of autocomplete with Copilot or whatever that was at the time. But like coding agents was just not a thing that was really everywhere. So I would definitely say it's come in very quickly. I still think it's a J curve of growth if you think about number of agents or agent instances that are running around. And I guess like that's kind of what Karpathy was saying on Dwarkesh as well, is like coding agents work mostly, you know, for him, he doesn't think they work as well, but a lot of people are using them. And that's kind of the first use case. And a lot of that is just like, we know how to build coding agents. We're devs, we build for ourselves in some sense, and that works out.
I think the only thing to add on there is I agree that coding agents are probably the best adopted. The second one that isn't talked about is most of these internal chat apps, they're pretty much designed as agents, and those are super widely adopted as every company was like, we need our version of ChatGPT internally. And that's pretty widely adopted. I think the agent terminology is still not well defined. App, agent, something that calls an LLM, I think it's nebulous depending on who you're talking to. And so, yeah, those are probably the most popular use cases adopted.
Oh, we actually do have time for one more question if anyone wants to ask. Yes.
Hey, so I have a different question. So I come from a hardware background. So basically the way I see it right now is like the world has sort of become dependent on GPUs, right? And like there are only two players right now, so NVIDIA and AMD. So that's basically coming. So how, are you guys seeing any basically efforts that's happening, or the way the custom hardware can influence some of this? I mean, like beyond the GPU stack that we have. I understand basically if I really look at the PyTorch framework that's basically coming, it's either supporting the CUDA or the ROCm, right? So these are two things that's basically coming. So do we see place for other software stacks coming in, given that there's a lot of research happening in China too?
So the question is, what's going on for optimizing GPUs or optimizing hardware?
So it's a great question. And the fact that actually you mentioned two, even last year or like a year and a half ago, if you looked at PyTorch, there was only one on the main website that you could actually install for. So it's glad to see at least there's another one, right? It's very difficult given, there's new models coming all the time, and every model might introduce a new kernel that is specific to that model. So you need to have a huge effort. But the good news is now, if we all push towards open source, and we all push towards the languages for the kernel, so Triton by OpenAI right now, right? It supports multiple different hardware vendors. So if we start pushing towards that direction, that, hey, let's all contribute to the open source project that actually can run on different hardware and be hardware agnostic, for real hardware agnostic. So there's so many open source software right now that you say, hey, this is a agentic framework and they call it open source. You start pip install, and next thing you see, there's a bunch of drivers specific to a specific company that's been installed on your machine, even though you don't have that hardware. So if you start pushing that direction, that's a possibility, and I hope that happens. Even coming from AMD, I'd love to see a lot more hardware to be supported. But I'd say it's difficult.
Maybe one of the things that I'll just add to my question is how does this play inference at edge also play out, right? So with respect to the hardware, maybe.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak from a hyperscaler perspective, right? In Microsoft data centers, we have NVIDIA and we have AMD. Those are primarily the largest number of chips that are inferencing everything that is going through Azure OpenAI, right? So we do want to make sure that there is optionality. In fact, ironically, we are hosting a Triton conference this week as well in the Microsoft campus. We wanted to kind of make sure that we have, because with PyTorch conference attracting a lot of people here, to the Bay Area, into San Francisco. We wanted to also have the Triton conference this week too. Leaning heavily into Triton, I think it's very important for that optionality. So it's, we're not locked into just one chip. And then of course there are, multiple companies are creating their own custom chips as well. Microsoft has the Maya effort, and Facebook did MTIA. Amazon has their Inferentia, and so there are multiple specific chips that are custom chips that are coming out as well. So I think I do expect to see a lot more of that moving.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. I think that will conclude our talk. Thank you guys for coming.